So for today's first flipped classroom lesson, we are going to learn about absolute value of equations and inequalities. So the first thing that we need to do is learn about absolute value, okay? The absolute value of a number is the distance that it needs to travel from that number to 0. So for example, if I ask you to figure out the absolute value of 5, it's basically how many steps you need from 5 all the way to 0. So the absolute value of 5 is positive 5. But if I ask you to figure out the absolute value of negative 5, even though the number is not the same because it's negative 5, because it is the absolute value, the result or the answer will be the same. So absolute value would be the distance from a number to 0. All right, so let's go ahead and try to solve problems. Because absolute value could be positive or negative, we can say that 2x minus 11 equals 3, or 2x minus 11 equals negative 3. After this, we just got to solve. It's almost like solving two equations for the price of one. So this would be plus 11 that is 0. So 2x equals 11 plus 3 would be 14. Now I have to divide by 2. And x equals 14 divided by 2 would be 7. Over here, we're also going to add 11. And that is also 0. But because you have a negative 3 plus 11, we're not going to add, we're going to take away, and that would be positive 8. Now we're going to divide by 2, and x equals 4. So the solution for this equation with absolute value would be 7 and 4. All right, let's do another one. Because its absolute value could be equal to positive 14 or negative 14. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it a different way that it's easier for me. And again, that is the same thing because it's absolute value. Now I can say that 2x minus 2 equals 14 and 2x minus 2 equals negative 14. I'm going to have to add 2. That would be 0. And 2x equals 16. To solve for x, I'm going to have to divide by 2. So x equals 8. On the other side, I'm going to add 2, but this one is not going to be 16 because it's not a positive 14. Negative 14 and positive 2 would be negative 12. To solve for x, I got one more step to do. Divide by 2, and x equals negative 6. So the solution for the values of x that make this equation true would be 8 and negative 6. All right. Over here, it's a little different because we have a 2 outside that absolute value. So if you want to take a look at it as parentheses, you can. But what we're going to do that is a lot easier is we're going to go ahead and get rid of that 2. So we get rid of that 2 by dividing by 2. And if I divide on one side, I gotta divide on the other. So that would be 1. So that means that the absolute value of x plus 3 equals, what is 12 divided by 2 would be 6. And now because it's absolute value, that could be positive 6 or negative 6. So let's go ahead and solve both equations. Alright, so we're going to have to take away 3 to solve that first one. That is 0. So x equals 6 and negative 3, or 6 minus 3 would be 3. Same thing over here. That it would be 0. And negative 6 and negative 3 would be negative 9. So the solution, or the values of x that makes this equation true, would be 3 and negative 9. So what I want you to do right now is you have one more. You're going to go ahead and you're going to try this on your own. So to get rid of 1/3, I'm going to get you started. You're going to have to multiply by 3. To get rid of 1/3, you multiply by the reciprocal, which is 3/1. And if you do it on one side of the equation, you have to do it on the other side of the equation. All right, so another way, hopefully you were able to try it, but I'm going to go ahead and go over it. Another way that you can rewrite this is x plus 8 divided by 3 equals 6, because that's over 1, and you're going to do numerator times numerator and denominator by denominator. So to get rid of that 3, you just got to multiply by 3, because that 3 is divided by. And then you end up with absolute value of x plus 8 equals 18. But this could be positive 18 and negative 18. So let's go ahead and do our two equations. X plus 8 equals 18, or x plus 8 equals negative 18. So we're going to do minus 8, that's 0, and x equals 10. 18 minus 8 gives you 10. Then we're going to do minus 8 and minus 8. That is 0, and x equals negative 26. So the solution for this would be 10 or negative 26. Alright, so what happens when they're inequalities? When they're inequalities is a little bit different, because we already learned today that inequalities is not just one solution, but it's a set of solutions. It's more than one number that can satisfy the equation. So because its absolute value still needs to be 7 and negative 7, but then we have compound inequalities that come out of this, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the negative 7 needs to be less than x minus 4, or that needs to be less than 7, okay? So what I'm going to do is, it's almost like I forget about this part of the equation, and then I have this that makes one inequality. So that would be negative 7 less than x minus 4. Or I can forget about the front part of the inequality, which would be this part. And then this right here would be my inequality. So x minus 4 is less than 7. Now after that, we follow inverse operation. So I'm going to say plus 4, that would be 0. So negative 7 plus 4 is negative 3. And negative 3 has to be less than x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an open circle on negative 3. And I'm going to put an open circle on negative 3 because it's not equal to. Now, x has to be greater than. The numbers that are greater than that would be to the right. Let's do the other one. Plus 4 that would be 0. And x is less than 11. So I'm going to put an open circle on 11 because it's not equal to 11. So that's hence the open. And then the values of x has to be less than that. So they go that way. So now the solution for this would be the area that they have in front. Okay? So you would say it's the union of 11. That's my answer. All right. Now remember this one on the equation, we can write it as x minus 3 because it really does not matter because absolute value, what comes out of the absolute value, it's always positive. So I'm going to rewrite my inequality. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a negative 10 in the front. So it would be negative 10 less than absolute value of x minus 3 less than 10. Now remember the two inequalities. This is 1, and then that's the second one. Alright, so I'm going to do the black one first. The black one would be negative 10 less than x minus 3. And the blue one would be x minus 3 less than 10. So let's solve. Plus 3 plus 3, that will be 0. X is greater than negative 10 plus 3 would be negative 7. Plus 3 plus 3, that's 0. So x is less than 10 plus 3 would be 13. Now let's write it. I'm going to make an open circle on negative 7 because it's not equal to, but the values of the values of x, have to be greater than negative 7. The values that are greater than negative 7 go this way. Now I'm going to put another dot, another circle, open circle on 13. And then the values that satisfy this inequality has to be less than 13. So that will be that way. Which means it's anything that's inside the common area, which would be those right there. So let's write it. It would be negative 7 and 13. Well, I cannot just say that it's equal to because it has. It's the union of those two. All right, so we need to get rid of the 2, and we need to get rid of the 4. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the 4 first. To get rid of that 4, we're going to say minus 4. That's 0. And I get that 2, absolute value of 2x plus 10 is greater than or equal to 10 and negative 4 would be positive 6. Now I'm going to have to divide by 2 both sides of the inequality. That would be 1. So now I get that absolute value of 2x plus 10 is greater than or equal to. Alright, so I'm going to put that 3 in the front as a negative 3. And then that has to be greater than, that's a negative, I'm sorry. That has to be negative 3. Alright, so let's go ahead and copy the first inequality, which is this one right here. Negative 3 greater than or equal to 2x plus 10. Let's go ahead and copy the second one, which is this right here, which would be 2x plus 10 greater than or equal to 3. Alright, so let's go ahead and solve for x. Minus 10, that's 0. So you get 2x, negative 3 and negative 10 would be negative 13. Divided by 2, x is less than or equal to, and then half of negative 13 would be negative 6.5. So negative 6.5 has to be greater than or equal to x. Minus 10, minus 10, that would be 0. So 2x is greater than or equal to negative 7, because 3 and negative 10 subtract 2 times is negative 7. Divide by 2, x is greater than or equal to negative 3.5. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. We're going to make open dot, not open, I'm sorry, closed, because they're also equal to. One on negative 6.5 and the other one on negative 3.5. Let's go back to the negative 6.5. The values of x's are less than, so less than would be that way. And the values of x for the next one is greater than or equal to negative 3.5. Alright, which means the answer is x is less than or equal to negative 6.5, or, let me write it down, that's way too small. So x is less than or equal to negative 6.5, or x is greater than or equal to negative 3.5. All right, next one. All right, so let's go ahead and start getting rid of things. So I'm going to get rid of that 15, and I'm going to do that by minusing 15. That's 0. So now I get that negative 3 squared absolute value of 5x minus 6 is greater than or equal to, and negative 9 and negative 15, I believe is negative 24. Now I got to divide by negative 3. So the one that we're going to go ahead and use would be absolute value of 5x minus 6 greater than or equal to 8. Alright, so now I'm going to put that 8 in the front as a negative 8, and it's going to be greater than or equal to absolute value of 5x minus 6. So this is my first one, and that's my second one. First part and second part. I'm going to go ahead and do the first part first. Negative 8 greater than or equal to 5x minus 6. So I'm going to say plus 6, that's 0. Negative 8 plus 6 would be negative 2 greater than or equal to 5x divided by 5. X is less than or equal to negative 0.4. And then the second part would be 5x minus 6 greater than or equal to 8 plus 6 plus 6, that's 0. So 5x is greater than or equal to 14. Divided by 5, and x is greater than or equal to 2.8. Okay, so 2.8 would be somewhere over here, and it's a full circle because it's equal to. X has to be greater than that, so that's where they go. And then the first one, the red one, would be x is less than, let's go ahead and look at the point first. Negative 0.40 would be somewhere over here. And the values are less than that.